Okay, so you join us back in complete chaos as ever, but there's all a good reason for this, to be honest. If we just move some of this out of the way. Okay, so what we've actually been doing, I've moved on a little bit since you've last seen this. Here we go, just make a bit of room. Okay, so actually what we've got is, we have this. Okay, now wondering, spot what this is. This is the underside for making up the engine actual area. So what I've done is, you can see here, we've chopped off this one in here, okay, but because we've chopped it off, obviously we're going to be left with quite a big void in here. Even though the engine's just pulled back a little bit, we're still going to have a bit of a problem. So what we've done is, we've made up this inside. Now it's really straightforward and very, very quick, and I'll just show you in a moment. But basically, as you can see, we've got some ribbing down here, and that will give us the detail, and the engine will come along and will sit in here like this. It's going to be pulled back a little bit so you can see some of this detail all around it, because obviously this panel is going to be open, so you can see it. And obviously we're super detail up this bit of the engine here. There's not much detail, to be honest, at the back there, but certainly this bit we need to take care of, okay? Now, for the guys who are going to be looking really closely at this one from the upside down position, we're obviously going to have a bit of a void. So the other thing I've done is this little area here, okay? So we've put this one in as well, and we've glued it into place. So when the two come together, it says, very carefully popping these all in, it gives us the effect of it being solid inside, okay? Because obviously, although the engine's only going to fit, is going to be in here sort of like this. I'm going to have it halfway hanging out with the doors open and everything. Obviously we didn't want any massive voids looking up in there to take care of it. Now it looks a lot more complicated than it actually is. So if I just show you what we actually did quickly. Okay, so the first part is obviously this side walling here. All we did for that was plastic art. This is quite the thick stuff, okay, and we're going to glue it in place just in here like that, okay. Then all we used was our little plastic strips, which are these, okay. We basically come along and we just drawed out roughly how it goes, so we know it sort of comes up a little bit and then it goes along like this, and then we've got the formers running down like that, and then they come across to give us that. So all we use was a very thin plastic styrene strip. I can get a little bit out, there's a bit left over from before. Okay, so we have all of these, and then all we did was come along, and drawing it out really helps because it shows you where you go, and we just glued these on, a little bit of extra thin, brushed on and then stuck on, okay. Then afterwards it looks something like this. I've got a bit on here already, okay, and then using extra thin glue, all we did was come along and you just brush it on. So we just here, there you are. Okay, brush it on like that. You can jog it all into position of exactly how you want it to be. Everything else, okay. Then I use the extra thin, because what it does, it melts the top of the plastic. So plenty of extra thin, just goes across like this. And then we come along with our foil and just stuck it down onto it and then rubbed it in. And obviously I took a lot more care the first time we did this one. And then wrap it over. So we have it showing through like that. I'm using the shiny side here. I actually use the dull side, so it's more to grip to, but you can see it better with the shiny side on there, just like that. And then obviously we just came across like this and glued it into position. Pretty straightforward, nice and easy, okay, to do. Now the top half, funnily enough, that's just a bit of cardboard tube, which is the part that's up here. Obviously we needed to curve it over. Using plastic art would be a real nightmare to do. So all I did, cardboard tube, okay, PVA glue, okay, blobbed it all over, brushed it on, flat side, just goes in, put it all down, okay, trimmed it up to size to fit in there. Then all we did was bend it around here, super glued that into position, and we tacked it to this rear wall. This side here is all free, okay. Then all we did was a little bit of super glue just on the back of this, on the cardboard side, just to make it a little bit more stronger to go in. So then when the two come together, they go in there just like that, and it gives us quite a nice effect. Now the only thing we've got to do is this touch a little bit up here, so we're going to extend a little bit in there and a little bit there, so we can just do that as loose foil if you wanted to, or whichever way. But the thing is, because I haven't glued this end bit in yet, I didn't want to mess around too much of pulling it off and everything else. But there we go, that's our sections in there now. So really that takes care of everywhere we were going to chop up on this particular aircraft, on this build. And as I say, it's one of those ones where, you know, it's getting quite complicated, quite busy in here when you see it from here, because obviously you've got the plastic in this one, we've now got these in. And if you wanted to do it with the engine totally out now, you could get away with doing it. We say great reference shots from the reference book we're using to move through. So there we go, that's those ones on. This bit in like that, it's nice and secure, okay, but you are going to have to take out a little bit at the front. Don't run it any further than this, because otherwise it's going to interfere with the intakes and it makes the entire bottom half shift out of alignment, and it's not a drop-in fit of how the two go in there. So next up for us is going to be now just working on the cockpit before we can really button this one up all together. So I was going to show you now the difference between obviously kit part and resin part. So if we just move you in here, you can see here we've got, this is the original kit part, just like this. Not bad detail, to be honest. We've got nice little panels on the side, pretty much as you'd expect from Tamiya. They've gone round, nicely done, everything else like that. Where it's lacking is just the detail down the backs here. I know a lot of you might think, well, that's good enough for me, I'll scratch build it and work our way through. Thing is, when you compare it with this is the Aries resin one, you get all this detail, hosing and piping and everything else that goes on down the back. Certainly down in here we've got lines of circuit breakers running on the insides, nice detailing and everything else for the actual the sort of fire blanketing and the soundproofing and everything that goes on in there. And then obviously on the inside we've got these nice little ones. Now there are photo etch sets will sort of bring them up to a standard, but by no means do you sort of get this type of detail with it. So we're going to be using the cockpit for this particular build. The other thing is we're going to be doing is actually going to be using a photo etch set for it as well. Now the photo etch ones we've covered roughly basically before, but here's the photo etch. So actually what we're going to do is do a twofold thing. Really all we're going to use is this outer coloured one, so we don't have to detail this front part here. What we're going to do, we're going to pop an LED down in the back here, this part here is going to shine through and illuminate the entire of the actual instrument panel, and then we're going to run fibre optics for the rear panel. There's a panel here for the actual radar guy in the back, and obviously it will illuminate his dials. Now we're not doing all the little switches and everything else like that. All we're going to do is the dials to make it sort of look like it's powered up and has come to life, just to really sort of show what we can do with these things. This particular one, now we've got the resin in here, is getting quite heavy as we're all going in, so you can just check your alignments to make sure you're all fitting in. We've spoken about it before, but you do have to take out this front part, okay, and then these should just all fit in here, something like that. Okay, the instrument panel fits on the top, does need a little bit of chopping around, but then we'll sit in here just like that, okay, to do it, and it still gives us this room up here in the front, as you can see, for where the LED is going to go, and then we've got the nose section obviously for the wiring, because obviously that's going to have to loop round and go round to the back. So what we can do now is quite safely move those parts all out of the way. Okay, we're happy with all of them, and we can work on painting and detailing up this resin cockpit. Okay, so moving on to the actual cockpit, what we're going to do, obviously we're going to need to paint it up and everything else like that. It's pretty straightforward, but what we need to do is install this lighting. Now if this is your first time with sort of fibre optics and LEDs, basically LEDs are very low wattage or sort of ampage lights. And say, don't hold me to any of this because I'm not totally up on these. These are made by a friend of mine called Marcus. You probably know him on the site, Marcus Jellyman. Now the thing is, he's a bit of a whiz at doing LEDs and things like that. And what we're going to be doing is releasing a range of these LED lights coming very, very soon. So basically what we've got is an LED just down in the end here. We've got a little reducer down here, which obviously reduces the amount of electricity going into the bulb, which then obviously dims it down and things like that. So actually what we actually have, you could just put the bulb system in the back here, something like this, okay, which will then shine, move that away, which will then shine in and illuminate your dials. Now the trouble with that is you're going to have light everywhere, and these are still pretty bright, even though, you know, we're into this sort of setup like this. It would work, but it wouldn't work brilliantly. So direct the light, what we've actually got here is fibre optics. Now fibre optics, you've probably seen these, you get them in kids' toys, everything else, or you can buy it singly, or you'll be able to get it from us very, very soon. What it does is carry the light to exactly where you need it in a pinprick form. Now obviously LEDs come in various different types and sizes and things like that, so obviously it's personal choice how you want to do it. If you want to do it on your own, or as I say, we'll be having a range out soon. But basically what we've done, I've drilled out just down in here a few little dials. Now the thing is with these are the same ones I've opened up as that are actually in the kit piece itself. Now the reason for this is, and the reason why these will mirror over the top, is basically I can put the clear decals into this that come with the kit, and then by using this full colour fret here that we've got on, will go on the front, it will show through hopefully and give us a nice illuminated dials on the cockpit and everything else like that. So what we've done, we've just literally drilled these out with a very fine drill bit in here, come along, gone through, and what we've done down the back here, we've had to make some holes because we've got multiple ones coming out very close together, so you can feed them actually in. So we drilled out a little bit of a well here and scooped it out. We've done one down the back, and you might be able to see some daylight in the ends of them like that. And then what we do, we come along with our fibre optic strands, okay. Let me just bring you across a little bit. We've got fibre optic strands like this, so what you can actually do, make sure you've got a nice clean cut on the end, because if you haven't got a clean cut, it sort of distorts the light. So you want it to look almost like a flat. If it's looking a little bit white, you know it's not a good cut. You pull them in, and you can pull them back, and what you want them to do is slightly slide a little bit down the hole. You don't want them butted right up to the front, because otherwise that tends to be a bit of a problem, that if you have to look at it from a certain angle to see it. If you pull it back, it will just pulse light then right onto the actual dials that we're talking about. Okay, so we've got one in there. Now we've got two coming out the same hole, which is this lower one, so you can poke both in together. Okay, and they'll go in, and for the moment we're just going to have them all hanging out the front. Okay, and then we can just feed these fibre optics down through. And some of them are a bit of a pain to actually get to stick up. There's that one. Got another one going in here. As I say, pick a nice sharp end if you can. Getting this last one out as a little bit, and that's why we've made these little holes down here in the back a little bit big, so these feed through without bending, because the thing is if you bend them they don't like it very much and they tend to get stuck. So what we'll do is we'll just hook him out. I'll try and hook him out a little bit. Okay, as best as we can. There we go, he's out now. Feed this other one down in the same side. Okay, then we just got two more. So we've got one that's going to come out down through the middle, which is this one. And some of them can be a bit of a tight squeeze to get them down, because you don't need to make the holes any much bigger than what they are already. Just chip this one off the end a second. Last one. Okay, so these are all down the back, absolutely fine, everything else like that. So as I said, what you want to do, make sure these ends are all nice. Okay, you can do a couple of tests, you can rig up the light and then turn it on and make sure you've got nice sharp light poking through these and everything else. But once you're in, what you should be able to do, you just come along and you just want to pull them back in just a fraction, okay, and then you can come along with a little bit of super glue or your CA glue, right, and just tap it in the end here. I'll show you this one. Okay, bit of kicker, stop it running all the way forward and causing problems. And that's that one held in place. And what we can do, we can come along and trim these up so they bunch in, because we need them to bunch together to go in the little collar here, so they're all fit in there like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to carry on with all the rest of these, getting them in the right orders and in the right place, and then we can trim these ones back insert the LED into the collar, and then this section here is going to fit into the nose cone and everything else, and then the wiring is going to backtrack, going to come back all the way, because obviously this one will then be fitting in here. So we've got it in like this. This is going to be, it's going to come in and going to fit in just like this. Okay. The LED is going to come through. This will be sitting in around about here, but then the wiring we're going to come back underneath around here, and it's going to come out where the power point is on the real aircraft. So it looks like it's just stood down, powered down, and perhaps they're doing electrical checks in the cockpit as it being the rest of it's being built up and things. So I'll get these, finish off work with these LEDs, and then if I get any bits we need to talk about, I can show you afterwards. Okay, so what we've done, we're just literally just testing this out for you guys. So actually what we've got, we bring it in a little bit. Might be a little bit bright, this one, but there we go. We've got this all in, so you come along, grab your leads, and as I say, there's your lights. And as I say, the camera picks these up exceptionally well because it's a very, very bright light. But there we go, that's your LEDs in there, just like that. So as I say, you can pull them out, and if you wanted to, you could set them up. Obviously we've got one working here, and then obviously if you bunch them all together and we feed them all in, and as I say, you don't need the light directly behind it. It doesn't matter what angle you're at, you can see it. It's a nice one. So by the time we've got the film over the front and everything else, it gives us that nice look to the instruments being illuminated and everything else. Now if you wanted to, you could dull this down a little bit. If you come along, just do it on the fibre optics. You can use like a filter effect by putting a little bit of black paint over the ends and things like that, or different colour paints, and that will obviously filter through. Or you could just come along and you could put a higher resistor on there, so obviously not as much light goes through. But there you go, that gives you the idea of how it all works and everything else. So what we can do now we've got that all bundled in, we can just protect off the front of these LEDs. We just put a little bit of blue tack over the front. All this is going to do is when we paint this up, guarantees that nothing gets down and in front of those. And that's all that is purely for. We don't have to worry obviously about this being messed up, because obviously it's all going to be covered up anyway. But there we go. So now we can paint all of these up, paint up this cockpit area, and we're ready to get the cockpit installed.